get started, I know all of you, I believe, but I'm Lindsay, I'm the administrator for East Castle, so obviously filling in Tyler's absence. Lattes with Lindsay, maybe I'll get my own program at some point. We'll see how the reviews are. I have some general items to circle back on, I know, that have been more hot ticket items in conversation in the past couple weeks. And then we'll open the floor to anything you ladies or gentlemen want to talk about. First one is Creativity Center. So if you've been able to do a drive-by, it's coming along wonderfully with the help of obviously Eric and our maintenance team. They've been able to do a lot of project management of it, which is fantastic. We have a very skilled maintenance department, which is great. And then obviously helps from a cost perspective, and then obviously the contractors and the flooring crew that we've been able to work with. The goal date and planned date for opening is February 23rd. So that would be next Friday already, which is wild to think about. That month end is coming near, where it felt like January was 4 years long. So February 23rd will be the opening day. And then we likely will do some sort of probably grand opening for the Creativity Center. And as things get placed through the art committee and our other resident committees. So that will be a very welcomed new addition to the community, as that room obviously needed a facelift. So. The other agenda item I have too is just talking about, I know there was some feedback about Valentine's Day dinner and the price affiliated, or the points affiliated in totality with the 4-course meal, that it was around that $30 quote.
A great dinner.
Yeah,
Good.
It was really good.
I know, it's, and with grocery prices and so on these days, and to be offering that level of experience of what you'd go to, Harbor House or Loopy and Iris, for example, to get a 4-course meal, that we had to raise our prices just a little bit, or our points, but obviously wanting to provide excellent meal, so I'm glad to hear that.
I would make a comment on it.
Yeah.
It was a lovely meal, okay? The only problem with it is that we had the soup,
Mm-hmm.
and then the salad was there before the soup was finished, and then the main course was there before the salad was halfway done.
Okay.
It was just way too rushed and took away from it, which it shouldn't have.
Sure. The experience, you're saying.
Right, I mean, it was a great meal
Yep.
on all levels, except that it was just rushed.
No, that makes sense. And that's very good feedback. That's teachable moments for, our staff on that level of experience and customer service and dining expectations.
I don't think we would have been there any longer had we had it paced out.
Right.
But, I mean, and we had no control over it because this is what you're getting.
Sure.
Which is fine, but it's just
Better.
McDonald's.
Absolutely. No, more timed out and more paced.
Right.
Which is very good feedback, and we can work with Majarka and Tim. I know oftentimes too, in my experience in serving, when things are already pre-coursed like that, it's hard to program that, but definitely teachable moments for our next 4-course meal, which is great. But the food itself was tasty.
It was terrific.
Excellent. I was saying to some friends, I went to Whole Foods and I was going to get myself a little steak, and it was $37 for a fillet for the pound. I'm like,
Uncooked.
correct, for one fillet. So I'm like, looks like meatloaf it is. Valentine's Day meatloaf.
The meatloaf was good too.
It was, absolutely. I'm like, that $7 meatloaf tastes just as tasty as a $40 steak with no sides. I'm like, oh my goodness, prices these days. But I like meatloaf, and I'm glad you guys had an enjoyable meal. But, and I appreciate that feedback too. And if you ever have any, experience like that too, we have new staff, obviously, that I'm sure you've seen new friendly faces in the dining room, which is fantastic. We've hired a lot of really wonderful servers and stewards in the past month, so kudos to our HR team, and Majorca and Tim and Tanya. But obviously that training and that experience comes with time, so we'll get there. St. Patty's Day, we'll get the corned beef and cabbage paste. Any other feedback about the Valentine's Day meal? Yeah.
Well, I wasn't clear. It was too much food for me. I wasn't going to do it. But I didn't realize the rest of the menu was available for takeout
Yes.
Okay.
until that afternoon, and I was down there and just talking to Nate, and he said, you can get whatever you want for dinner. I said, no, I didn't realize that, but
The Jarka sent an email to that effect.
Right, yeah.
then I didn't read it correctly.
Uh-huh.
So there was an
Or I
email
didn't get
sent
something.
out.
Thank you, I'll look. I
Good
must
to
have missed
know.
it then.
And usually, I would say most of the time, unless indicated otherwise, the full menu is available for to-goes and takeouts, obviously, if you're not in the dining mood in person. So, as a rule of thumb, usually. Any other thoughts there? My next item, sundries. Did everyone see this memo from Majorca about the sundry items?
No, I don't. That's something I want to address. I'm very low vision.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get those.
The memos you don't get?
No, I don't
Okay.
get them. And I have asked, and I think the low vision group has asked. I know they put them in a binder,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not really very handy. So we had requested for the low vision people to put them in the mailbox, East Castle mailbox, so that I can take it upstairs and read it with my machine. There aren't that many of us. I would think it would be a doable thing.
Sure. Absolutely. And
That goes for any, memo, because
would it
there
be
are
helpful?
people that don't have computers.
Mhm.
There are people here that can't see.
Right.
And if you're going to try to accommodate everyone, which I assumed when I moved in was the point, you're not doing it.
Sure. Well, good to know. I think with obviously the memos, and we have not been stuffing them in everyone's mailbox because we've been transitioning to email through Touchtown. I do think, because again, everyone has different low vision, I'd say, deficits. Mine is different than yours or the next person or your neighbor. What I think we could do too is put a memo out that would be emailed that day, that people could take a physical copy, rather if they'd like a paper copy, rather than putting them in every person's mailbox to
Not
collect
every
scrap
person,
paper.
just low vision people.
Right.
Which would be about 10 or 12.
The hard part is identifying exactly who those 10 or 12 are.
Well, the low vision people have sent someone a list,
Oh, okay.
so
So to Maureen, she would
I
have a
have no
list
idea.
then?
That's not my job description.
Okay. No, it is not. Well, I will find where that is,
Thank you.
and we will circle back on that. That is good feedback. On that note, though, the sundries are getting shrunk down of what will be available for pickup in the sundries, on the sundries list. And again, that is available for order ahead of time in the marketplace down here. But that list, again, is getting shrunk for time-intensive purposes, for, where we can better invest some of our staff's time and how much time they've been spending on coordinating that, and then stocking and things not getting picked up and so on. So,
Excuse me, in the marketplace?
I'm sorry, the
Store.
In the
Store,
restaurant?
yes.
In the store?
Yes,
The bistro?
the bistro, yes.
Bistro, okay.
Thank you.
No,
Yeah.
there's something different there. In the bistro is where the lists are, do you want us just to leave it on the counter, or do you want us to order it in the store? I need the clarification on that.
Order it at the bistro, what you have been doing, correct?
Yes.
With,
Yes.
on the counter or with Dave?
There's a
I put it in
basket,
the
there's a
basket.
basket that says,
So we just wanna have the same, there's no change there?
No, there is no change in the process.
Would you look at the list and tell me where they, I'm sure you've got a new menu for the sundries.
I don't have a new menu on me, no.
Okay, because there is a menu.
Yes.
It's not being used, but in fact, it exists. I think we've got drinks and cookies,
Cereal.
and do you remember what else is in there?
Cereal.
Cereal. That's on the new one.
Yes,
don't know.
it's
Oh,
two
no.
sides
Mhm.
of one
Chips on there.
You can get those or you can't get those.
You can get, it's limited, and we don't know why, because it's taking hours to get everybody's, because it happens always at the changeover when our points switch. Somebody say, oh my God, I've got 100 points left, I need to quickly get stuff this week.
Correct. So the process itself for ordering is not changing. It's just that the list that you mark up is more condensed in terms to obviously optimize staff efficiency and how we can better focus on, providing a better experience in the bistro, dining room, lunch, dinner. Any questions on that?
If you order something from the sundries list, how do you get it then? Is it brought upstairs to your unit, or do you come down and pick it up, or how does that work?
Historically, you come down and pick it up. And that is not changing either. That is still staying the
Now, they
same.
will deliver it, I believe, because it does mention on there, I think, that there is a 5-point
Special
charge
delivery
for
fee.
delivery. I
Yes.
think you'd have to write delivery on it, I'm not sure, there doesn't seem to be a choice, as
Mhm.
there are on the menus for meals.
Yes.
Do you know when it would be available?
What?
If you ordered,
Usually
That
the
day usually.
That day or the next day,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I don't know what time or anything like that.
and the bags are labeled like takeout. So
Yeah,
they're
they
put
do.
on the bistro counter, and you'll see your name and you'll peek inside and go, oh, I ordered that.
Yes, if you pick it up.
Yeah, right.
So, and I think Sandra's going to get a sheet if I had an educated guess. But, again, yeah, the ordering, the pickup, or the delivery have not changed. It's just condensing those.
Talk about condensing thing, may I ask about mine? I'll admit that I eat lunch foods for dinner.
Mhm.
And the ones that can be ordered for dinner is very limited now. Do you know why that happened? A lot of the sandwiches are gone,
On the dinner menu
yes,
specific,
specifically.
um,
There was a time when you could order the lunch things.
Sure.
And so, I mean, what I've done some is order lunch and hold it for dinner, but then things have to be reheated, it's not as good. And I'm probably the only one who does that, but I just don't eat the specials,
mhm,
maybe once a week.
right.
I don't care for them.
And we're on obviously the menus change on a rotation. And when they updated the new menus, probably 6 months ago, that was condensed. And I think just from obviously a staff preparation and where we are investing our efforts in for the meal process, it's easier to focus on those specific items on the dinner menu than the one-offs. I'm sure, though, I can talk with Tim and Majorca to see, if someone would like a sandwich, for example, they're usually,
Before I realized it, the first day I ordered something, was told it was not available. That's
Okay.
how, and then I looked at it and found out what was wrong. It's not the end of the world, but I'm probably the only one who does that. But I really don't want the specialties, I just don't care for the food.
sure. And we can give that feedback of something for our hospitality
Very
team to look
couple.
into if there's a little smaller food choice item on
And
the
there are-
lighter side.
There's still 4 of us, so
Yep.
3 or 4 left.
Good.
Okay, I just wondered about the reason.
All right. Any other questions on the sundries or ordering or?
You made a comment about that the menu changed about 9 months ago or whenever it was. Just, we've been here, it'll be a year next month, okay? And this is our third, okay? So we came in sometime in July, they changed, and then they just changed now. That's something that, if it's seasonal, 4 times a year would be, I don't think, asking too much.
So, to that point, our entire menu process changed a while ago, but for what is actually changed on the ordering is changed much more frequently. It's usually on a 5-week rotation, historically for the kitchen. And that is, again, to get the most seasonable items, because you don't want to necessarily be serving apple squash soup in spring when it's not the best time to have apples.
I mean, we ended up seeing the one menu for probably 8 months.
Okay.
And it just gets a little old and I mean, it's too much.
Sure.
I don't know if it's just me.
Sorry.
The two-sided list of sundries, which is out there now, because it's not been implemented, they don't have the correct one yet.
Okay, that's my problem.
So can we order off that one yet?
Yes,
see
if
why
it's
not.
still out there, absolutely. Thank you, Sandra.
You're welcome, you know, 30 points a day, no more than 100 a week.
Perfect. Any other thoughts on the sundries or dining room or menus? No. And then the last item for my agenda is we will be doing fire alarm testing. If you saw that, that will be next week, or that will be the 27th, I'm sorry. And that is going to be, obviously that's our annual fire testing, that's the entire community. And it will be isolated to short times per your building. Lake Terrace and Bradford Terrace will be blocked together. And then Historic and then the upper half of Bradford Terrace will be blocked together. And then Contemporary, being so large, will be split into 2. So.
Okay, so when you're doing this, you're actually like practicing the evacuation? Like
We
when
are
you were
not,
school?
no, we will not be doing any evacuation. It's through the Milwaukee Fire Department and the company we contract, Fire Protection Group. We are required every year to have these tested, where they blow the horns, the lights, just to make sure that everything's operating accordingly.
They don't turn the
I didn't
sprinklers
think we
on.
were evacuated anyway.
No.
If they were a real fire, you don't evacuate.
Correct. We defend in place in a
I
real
know,
fire.
it's like, I gotta get this in my head.
Oh,
you know,
I'm
and
sorry,
how to
I didn't
do
realize
this.
that.
Yeah.
No balcony.
Where did we stay?
Yes.
Will they come
Yes.
into the apartment to do something?
They will not be coming into your apartment, no.
You can't be stuck.
It's just going to be more or less a noise
Stay inside.
disturbance.
I thought they said they were coming in to test your.
I did too.
Yeah, I did too.
Oh, I
That's
know.
what the memo
I
said.
thought it was the
Yeah.
I didn't
alarms
get
in
the
your
memo.
room,
Yes,
in your apartment.
yes. So then, I might be behind on that, where,
That's what I thought.
I read this if
They gave a time range of like
Okay.
9 to 4.
Yeah.
Okay, and then they would come, and if you're not there, I don't know if they'll just come in or whatever. I wasn't clear on that.
okay,
Because it's a long range to stay put.
right.
Yeah.
Usually it says things like they will come into your apartment with a representative.
Of East Castle. And that
No.
historically,
Doesn't
does
make
seem,
sense.
does seem to make sense. For an independent living apartment, absolutely. But I will clarify that in the memo that was specifically sent out. I know Eric emailed that, so.
For some things, they say if you do not want them to come, if you're not there, please let them know. I've seen that on some things.
Yes, and anytime that our staff would be accompanying the fire protection group who would be doing the testing, if, again, you're not home or you do not want them there, you can let Eric know. You can leave him a voicemail, shoot him an email, or let the front desk know, and then Lila or Famata can communicate that to Eric if the time that's identified for your apartment or that gap of time is identified for your apartment and you don't want them to come in. Or you do and you know you won't be home and you still would like them to come in, you can let them know.
Many of us have pets, so we don't want to have a pet running down the hall.
Correct. And our staff do know you have pets, those who do have them. So they are conscientious that we don't want the little felines to be cruising down the hall or the dogs to be taking laps up and down. So they are aware of that. Perfect. And then that is all I have. A little agenda.
I want to know if the 4 chairs at the entrance in front of Lila's desk can be replaced. They're so high I can't see around. It's very confusing to have somebody pick me up and I can't see.
So the backs are too high?
I
You would
they're
think?
too high. Does anybody else?
I hate the arrangement because it cuts off, if anybody comes in, it certainly does not feel very welcoming. You've got your backs to them. It says we're inclusive, we're, everybody up to us. That's what it looks like to me.
But you mentioned the high backs early on, a long time ago, that was unfriendly.
Well, yeah,
You
the
can't tell
setup, I don't want
sitting there.
the chairs. But that's just me, but you've got a real problem, yes.
Does anybody else have that problem? Or are we the only ones?
No, I can't see over them either, but so far, I'm just sitting here trying to think back on experiences there. But I think I've just solved it by going and standing at the door waiting for the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't see
Well,
anything else.
sometimes I have to wait a while.
Yeah.
And I'm probably not a
Some
good
kids
test
aren't
case because I
that
can't
strong.
see anyway.
That is good to know though. How are the actual seats of the chair? Do they go too far back or
Yes.
No, that's all right.
that's all right? Right, and that's obviously body
Yeah,
composition.
exactly.
That they could exchange, are there any low back chairs anywhere around that could be put in there and just switch?
Technically, we don't have any that would be, I'd say, an easy fix, where we could just take the ones from, a different set of rooms, but that's definitely something to look into, and that's very good feedback. We're still talking with the designers and CG Schmidt on obviously some of the closing up items, if you've seen them still lingering in the halls of sorts, or more so us behind the scenes, but, we want that to be a practical space as much as it is inviting. So, if it's, and ultimately it's for your use. So I think we can come up with some comfortable alternatives to see what that looks like. That's both practical, visually appealing, and welcoming.
What did they find when they made that odd hole next to the staircase in the hallway up here?
So that was a water leak, actually. There was a water leak probably a couple months ago in the ceiling, and so they had to take out that little, obviously, the hole in the ceiling and a little bit of the wall to repair the pipe internally, as well as then obviously repair any water damage and rippling in that wall.
Have we taken the damage off the ceiling? in there?
Yes, correct. So all of that damage has been rectified.
And they were airing it out because of mold?
At any time there is water damage, there's always a risk of mold. There was not anything that was
They had a fan in
identified.
there, a blower, was there a HEPA filter in there?
Yes, there would be a HEPA filter in the fan. Luckily, with it being newer construction, the risk of mold is a lot less than when we would have a water leak, when we had our, I'd say 2006 walls over there, that is where more of the concern comes in. But with it being newer construction and just a pipe that kind of bled into the ceiling and the wall, obviously, if you don't have a fan in there, that would lead to mold, similar to anyone's apartment or home. But they had the fan going to obviously absorb that condensation so that there would not be a risk for mold.
Monday, do you know if the cleaning staff will be working? As far as I know, that I think that's President's Day.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, Monday is business as usual. The staff do not get Monday off for President's Day. It's not necessarily a quote healthcare holiday. So business as usual, staff will be here as usual. Some people obviously have planned days off if their children are off and they got that approved, but no, service will be normal.
Also, someone mentioned that there were some things in the basement, and the big room used to have the Christmas things in it for Goodwill. I went up because I've got a lot of clothes that I would like to give away, and I don't drive. However, the door was locked, and no one seemed to know anything about it. Do you know if there's any plan to pick up some of those things
I just heard
and
something.
take them to Goodwill, and if so, where they could be put?
I just heard from Lila, because I asked her today, and she said they won't be doing anything with the Goodwill donations until, like, Goodwill calls them, and then they start collecting. But I will say, I'm going to be going to Goodwill. So if we can, work together, I'll just take your stuff in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Look at that. Teamwork makes the dream work.
And you know what? This just brings up something that I'm going to be working on with Scott. And it is, and really just listen, because I know some people are going to go, oh no, and don't close your mind to this. We were talking.
Go for it, Annie.
Yeah, well, but we were talking about having a next door website here just for East Castle Place. And it wouldn't be, we're talking about, who could be included. I would like it to be just residents only. It doesn't have to be, the staff. But what it does is it can help us with community. Because, you could say, I need somebody to, is anybody going to Goodwill? And I'll go like, well, yes, I am, and I can respond to you. So there can be conversations and dialogue between people for certain things. Or, like, gee, I gave my mixer, my big mixer away, and I want to make, something. And then you just put it out and ask if anybody has a mixer they could use. And so you're communicating that way. And
So is it kind of a digital bulletin board?
yeah,
Yes.
yes, that's exactly it. And then also, now this might, not be available to us, but sometimes I feel really badly that I don't know that somebody is not feeling well and they are in their apartment. And HIPAA, but if we do it, if I say, oh gee, I haven't been feeling too well, I'm giving up the information. And then, people will know. I'm not asking us to be nosy, but I'm just saying that, you could, I don't know if anybody would want to do this, but it's like, my mother just died, and I'm not feeling, anybody want to do something, like go out shopping, retail therapy. No, but just something where we can communicate. And it would just be the people that live here. And you participate if you want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're seeing those be much more common, obviously. Next door is a neighborhood
Yeah.
application, if many of you are familiar with that. And, Facebook and so on. Obviously, internally, we'd want it to be, sometimes those next doors can become just like a dumping ground of
Did you hear that boom?
complaints. Yeah, exactly. But I think there could be a lot of value to that, and I know Scott is also connected with Evan on that too, because again, Touchtown could have some capabilities, as there are certain things like Goodwill or, I have neighbors in my building that I'm like, hey, I need a stick of butter, rather than going and calling the kitchen. It would be nice if my neighbor perhaps had an extra stick that they're not using and I could bun that off of them. So more to come there. I think that's a really nice idea and something that'll probably come through the Lifestyle and Communication Committee.
Yeah, and then also, that Touchtown, whoever can use it, I think it's really a wonderful way to communicate last minute things, And one more thing I have to bring up, and this is change of subject, because I think we dealt with that along. But it's the cleaning. I think that I see a lot of spots that need just a little attention. And like this hallway always seems to be, like coffee's been spilled and things like that. And when we bring in people, it's nice to have a real clean environment. And on the third floor, maybe nobody thinks of this, but I think they need to come in with a big vacuum cleaner and clean the carpet too. Because it just is and I've noticed it on our floor. I don't notice it on the others because I'm not walking through them very often.
Third floor contemporary?
Contemporary, yes, right, yes.
That's pretty, the floor is pretty beat up.
Yes.
When they
Contemporary.
were doing things,
Yes.
the sides of the walls or.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's in historic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's-
the hallway,
Yeah, and it's
the hallway
historic.
here is especially bad. The doors need a coat of paint. I mean, they're
Yeah.
old doors. They didn't renovate them.
And,
But going back to the historic, the carpet is it's a kind of a mess.
yeah,
I think it needs to be deep cleaned, not just vacuum or replaced.
yeah.
Better
And our cleaning crew and floor care is on a rotation. They have like the preventative maintenance scheduled in for deep floor cleaning. To that point, have you all been able to enter in a work order through Touchtown?
Yes.
Okay, so I would recommend, and these things are things that I do as well, from like a housekeeping, if you see like third floor, and I can enter that one in specifically from this meeting, but if you see your floor needs a vacuum or a deep clean, you can put that in under housekeeping, and they will get that scheduled. Again, that may not be the immediate priority that day per se, but they will put that on their caseload. And perhaps it would be quicker than what would be those scheduled deep cleans that are more on that rotation. And same with certain little paint nips and chips, or like, that's a good observation about the doors too. And this area, it's so bright and beautiful, but it's a blessing and a curse that it's so bright and beautiful, because then when there's a divot or dirt, it identifies it a lot more than what kind of darker tones and hues absorb. And especially, it's your home, it's first impressions, it's what we want our community to look the part and look the brand. So, and our team is able to fix those up. So, and if you don't feel comfortable putting that in, you can let the front desk know and they'll put a work order in for that as well. If it's something more of that preventative maintenance or painting or kind of fixing a chip, if a cart clips the side of the wall, which happens every week, unfortunately, sometimes. But those are good good observation, and it takes a village to clean that up, because sometimes you walk past something so many times you start to not see it.
And another thing with cleaning is that, what kind of training do the cleaners get? Because today I just had my apartment cleaned, and I've never had a cleaning person in my home. Occasionally somebody come in and help me. So I was really, maybe my expectations were too high.
They don't clean the way we do. I mean, but that's not my expectation.
You know they're not gonna do it.
Right.
But what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep these places, good, so that somebody who moves in next time doesn't have, this dirt that's in the corner. I mean, just take your vacuum, whatever. But, do I then, hire somebody else to really deep clean?
So,
You ask your girl to do a better job in the corners, and you know that they won't dust under any of her neckties. It's not ever gonna happen.
Right,
If you
I
take them
know
all
that.
away, put them on the bed, they will then dust your furniture.
Yes, I understand that, but how about, like a lampshade? Do they just, do they,
They fluff it with their thing.
yeah, okay, so that obviously wasn't done, since I've been here. And I just wanted to kind of
And
look,
they're not gonna go around it because it's impossible.
was
I
that,
mean, we all have stuff out,
oh, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
and they're not gonna go around it. I mean, our cleaning lady that we had at home, she
So-
did as
Okay,
best she could,
all
but
right,
never
so
what I would.
Are they supposed to clean the steel, the refrigerator and?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
yes.
so I'm getting that kind of stuff, like fingerprints are on it. Well, I thought this morning, oh, I should clean that up. Then I go, well, no, somebody's coming in. So, I mean, do they have like a list of things?
yes,
If you look in the
Yes,
handbook, it actually says
what
what they will
What
and
they-
will not do.
yeah, and so we have that clearly, or to the best of our ability, spelled out in the handbook, and when you move in, of what to expect on that cleaning. Usually when they do come at that frequent basis, they're not doing your typical deep clean that you would pay someone to come in for. That being said, they do have the capabilities where if you wanted a deep clean, we can schedule that. It would just be at a certain X rate. I think that's also in the handbook, that you can add that on. And it's very similar to, if I'm hiring a Mary Maid, or classic cleaners, for example,
It's
and I do
hugely
my,
expensive, Lindsay.
pardon?
It's $15 or $20 for 15 minutes.
Yeah,
You look at that, it's about $80 an hour. You can hire help cheaper than that. I'm not quite sure why they penalize us if you want an hour of extra work, which you can order, but you have to really pay for it.
Yeah, and that is true. And again, that goes from just our staffing patterns and what their time allocated, because if they add more time onto someone else's schedule, that takes away technically from another part of their routine. So that's why it is inflated. And again, it's no different than I had a cleaning person do a deep clean, and it was about $250 more for my 1,500 square foot place than what a standard clean would be. And then to add on for them to clean my refrigerator, the inside was another $200. So it's interesting, the prices out there, but it is still obviously the best, in my opinion, for people coming in your apartment, the best bang for your buck.
yeah.
And especially you're not getting a deep clean every time, but it is for
a
those.
deep clean, is behind a toilet a deep clean?
No, that would be standard. And I would say if you're not seeing the level of service
Then
for a
just write a
standard
note?
cleaning, write a note.
Okay.
You can stop by Ian and let him know your observations too. And they do QA. Ian, as the housekeeping manager, does QA checks for the whole area, just to make sure that,
What does that
standard.
mean? What does he do?
He will come and observe the cleaners on occasion, our housekeeping staff, to make sure that they're meeting the level of expectation.
Does he ever go in and inspect after it's cleaned?
Yes, that is also a
Haven't
part
seen
of
any
it.
evidence of that.
Okay, and it's not necessary, it's for Ian to follow the cleaners, not necessarily to walk with
And show them right now.
the owner of the
But you
apartment.
really need a before and after view
Yep,
to assess.
absolutely.
But he does sometimes come while they're there or something?
Yes, yes, that is part of the QA inspection process, and then mostly, oftentimes too, it will be him observing after what that looks like as well, to make sure that it's meeting the standards. But again, if you are seeing deficits in that housekeeping, please let him know, and they can follow up with that specific housekeeper. And then as well as what you see as your priorities, you know, because it's building a relationship where if, you know, someone's really wants their corners cleaned and then certain areas dusted and so on, they want to work with you, you know, to meet your expectations, because again, everyone's perception of clean can be different, you know, so please let Ian know, and I also will circle back on
Yeah,
that.
I just thought maybe, you know, if they might not have been really trained, you know, to start from the top and go to the bottom, you know, that kind of stuff.
Sure,
So-
and that is part of the orientation and the onboarding and training process, and part of their onboarding checklist, so everyone does have that expectation.
Staffing has been a big issue across the board.
You know, we have been lucky with staffing, I will say, and we haven't had any specific turnover in our housekeeping department. So that should not be an excuse, you know, or even a question, so.
But you know, an hour and a half, every 2 weeks, doesn't do a lot of, we don't have it every week, so it's hard. They can only do so much.
Right. And so if there's certain things you want as a priority, please let them know. And if there's things that aren't meeting your expectation, please let Ian know, or Eric. Any other thoughts?
I have a
Yes.
question. I'm new. When you have a request for maintenance, is there any way of knowing when they're going to come? Because I have a dog. I'm in and out frequently, and I don't want to be outside if they're coming. And if they come, when I'm outside, what happens then? Do I have to, how do I even know if they've been there? Or do I put in another request after?
So on the Works Hub system, it should show you if it's been completed or not. It's like a little light bulb, if you've ever observed that, when you're entering in a work order. That being said, for those who, you know, have animals or pets and want a more controlled time, you can let Eric know, either stop down at his office, or you could put that right in the work order. If you see that, it says permission to enter. And if you check that box or you identify that you're comfortable with them to just enter and complete the task, they will. If you don't do that, they would call you to say, you know, hello, Mrs. Jones, we'd like to come change out these light bulbs. In the next hour, Rusty will be up. Does that work for you?
I haven't really been getting any of that. When I tried to check that box, nothing happens.
Okay, and that could be a system issue, and maybe your access specifically, so I can look into that.
Joanne and I have discussed this, but not getting replies, and I said that when you put in your order, say on it, please confirm time and date with me.
Yes.
Okay. All
They
right.
may do it or not, but at least you've made it clear that that's how you want it to handle.
Yes.
Okay. One time, I did get, I think someone called and said they were coming at such and such a time, but no one came. So then do I, the next day, put in another work order, or?
You would not need to put in another work order because it wouldn't be closed out. So it stays on their scheduled system until myself as the maintenance man closes it out completely. And Eric looks at that every day, as well as Ian in Eric's absence. So that, your works order, if it perhaps got bumped to the next day because of some other priority essentially, or time-intensive need, would be scheduled then, or would still remain an open item for them. And our entire maintenance team everyone has an iPad or a tablet of sorts that schedules out and identifies how these are delegated and what their priorities are for that day, based on those open workshop items. And for that matter of knowing who's coming in the building, usually it is the same usual individuals because we have them designated to the buildings. So if you need a painting, obviously that usually would be Dustin, oftentimes Jesus as well. Michael and Rusty are really the independent living individuals, and then Rob is our Bradford Terrace designee. So,
Is there a way for me to tell on that app if the order has been closed out or what?
yes. So when you look on the app where it would show the work order you put in, once it's completed, and I'd recommend the next time you put a work order in, they come, the job's done, you look back, it will say completed and it won't be highlighted and it won't have a little light anymore.
Maybe my app's not working
Okay.
correctly then. For one thing, I managed to log myself out.
Oh, I did that once too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pat told me how to get.
Scott, what's my password?
Yeah.
And perhaps we could do a little tutorial, a little refresher of what key items to look for. If people want to come for a 15-minute kind of quick tutorial of just key things when you're entering, waiting, closing it out, and observing. So I can work with Scott and Evan on that. They could get a little class. Doesn't have to be anything extravagant, but just a quick debrief on that.
That might help, yeah.
Good.
Do we know why we lost Kevin?
So, good question. So Kevin no longer works with East Castle, and that is because Joe Petoskey used to be over both Sedgebrook in Illinois, and then as well as East Castle. So Sedgebrook in Illinois got rid of or canceled the contract that we had. And with that, unfortunately, we don't have the need for 2 full-time IT individuals. And so based on seniority, that's why Kevin is no longer with us. But he left very amicably, happy. Him and Joe had lunch on the day he did leave. So
Who's the new one?
it is Joe Petoskey. He's not new. You've probably seen him around over time. And so he is your IT gentleman, and he was here about 2 days a week. And now he's here a full 40 hours.
Is he doing open door?
He is doing open door.
Does he know any more about Apple than Kevin did?
Joe is very skilled. That's why he was over both communities with Apple, Android, printers. I mean, you name it, IT issues, EMR, computer connectivity. He's the jack of all trades. So we are lucky to have Joe.
I did go expecting Kevin, probably, in fact, it was the day left, I know, because I saw him in the hall. And then when I went to the open, when he has the afternoon, it was Joe. And he was quite helpful.
Yes,
I was very surprised. I always liked Kevin. I thought he did a good job.
absolutely.
But Joe also seemed very willing to try and, to listen.
You bet. Joe is very competent in his trade. And so he will be a very good, consistent fit. And there he goes walking by, actually.
Good thing you weren't saying nasty things.
I know. Shut the door. No.
So I'm about to, not nasty, but question.
Sure.
I'm billing from IT.
Okay.
So Kevin, I asked Kevin to come and do some work with Alexa for me. And he did. You never knew till the last minute whether he was going to make it or not. Arrived late in the day, so left an hour later, job not quite done. comes back, and give him his due. One day, the second day he was there, he missed something that caused much more time to be involved, did not bill me for that. We had this conversation about, okay, now we're in the third time, and the first half hour is, I don't remember the numbers, more, and then every 15 minutes an additional sum. So on the third day, I got charged for the first half hour again, even though it was very late in the day when Kevin could come. So I signed it in protest. And I forgot to tell Tyler yesterday when I had my meeting, so I'm telling you.
Okay,
Please.
I can look into that, absolutely.
If they come in at 1 o'clock and don't get it done, that's one thing. But if they're there just for an hour,
I will look into that specifically.
But we're never gonna get to see what he looks like when he cuts his hair.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, he's done it, you know. I think that was great what he does.
Yeah, the locks of love,
Yeah.
Yes,
absolutely.
we won't get to see it.
something that we could stay here long enough to come up with.
Are we done?
If we could get word through to whomever and how to get to videos that are on 955 via our, I believe it's a YouTube channel, is that correct?
955 is our internal
Yes.
East Castle channel.
Yeah, but I'm told there's a YouTube connection there
There is
to
a
see the
YouTube.
videos.
Sure, yeah, we do have an East Castle YouTube.
Everywhere else.
So some sort of way to, it might be simple enough to just send out an email blast, but nobody I've talked to knows how to do it. When
Okay,
I say nobody, I'm talking about fellow residents.
sure. Well, that's easy enough. We can get that sent out. Any other thoughts? Otherwise, I know perhaps everyone has a busy Friday.
Can I just ask you one more?
Yes,
We
please.
have the third floor again on the, how long has that carpet been up there?
Are you talking about third floor historic?
Yeah.
Great question. That I don't know. Certainly, it's been here the whole time I've been here, which is 6 years. But I would say longer, significantly longer than that.
I don't think the carpet is worn, it just needs sprucing.
It's filthy. It needs to be.
Well, the carpet in here bothers me because when I look in, I see
It's too
patches
busy.
where it's faded.
It
Yeah.
looks faded, yes.
They've got
I
patches
think
that are
that's
not.
part of it.
That's
Part of the charm of it.
Yeah.
That's
So
charming.
I'm also concerned about the false advertising for this meeting today. I came down expecting to get a pumpkin latte,
I
and
know.
lo and behold, it wasn't there.
I will have to blame Evan for that. Evan was supposed to be my barista, making espressos, flat whites, pumpkin spice lattes, chai lattes, so.
And he didn't show up.
He set the camera up and just left.
He's
Yes.
probably at IKEA.
He's going to IKEA getting the meatballs and, the egg noodles. So next time we'll all meet at Stone Creek. How about that? That's more my speed,
That will get a big crowd.
right? I love a good latte, so say no more. Good, any other thoughts?
Waste baskets.
Waste baskets.
Over the car.
They're here.
Hard to
Oh,
find,
right
hard to
there.
find at East Castle. There's a distinct lack of waste baskets.
For the hallways, would you say? or-
Anywhere.
Okay.
You can't find waste baskets anywhere.
And the sooner we can get rid of the styrofoam, the better.
Thank you.
Yes.
I was looking around, and I know that's next on the agenda, but we can never say it often
And you
enough.
have cardboard ones.
Yes, that's what I was thinking, they have cardboard over there.
Did Steve say cardboard or did he go the styrofoam?
Perfect. Well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you bearing with me.
Thank you.
I know,
And as backup to Mr. Gudex,
Is he gone?
he is off today, yes. So he'll be back Monday.
I guess it's a long, he was in Joanne yesterday.
Yeah, just today's off.
Yeah. Did you make?